Most people think strength looks loud, aggressive, dominant, unbreakable on the outside. Epictetus was a slave. He owned nothing. He controlled nothing. And he was the mentally strongest person in any room he ever entered, not because of what he had, because of what nobody could take from him. These are the 5 signs you are already stronger than you think. Sign 1. You feel deeply but don't react. Most people confuse being emotional with being weak. They're not the same thing. Epictetus felt everything. He wasn't numb. He wasn't detached. He lived as a slave. He knew pain, humiliation, and loss in ways most people never will. But here is what made him different. He understood that between what happens and how you respond, there is a gap. And in that gap lives your freedom. Most people have no gap. Something happens and they react. Immediately. Automatically. The emotion arrives and the mouth opens. The anger rises and the fist clenches. The fear appears and the mind spirals. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you that determines your life. It's what you decide it means." The person who feels deeply but chooses their response, that person is not weak. That person is exercising one of the most demanding forms of self-mastery that exists. Feeling everything and reacting to nothing is not coldness. It is control. Quiet, invisible, extraordinary control. If you are someone who feels things intensely but takes a breath before you respond, you are stronger than you know. And that strength connects directly to sign 2. Because the people who can feel without reacting have usually developed something else that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. Sign 2. You can sit with uncertainty. Most people cannot handle not knowing if the job is coming, not knowing if the relationship will work, not knowing if the decision was right, not knowing what comes next. That uncertainty is unbearable for most people, so they fill it with distraction, with constant checking, with worst-case scenarios that give the anxiety something to grip. Epictetus lived with total uncertainty every single day. As a slave, his entire life could change with one decision by someone else. He had no control over his circumstances. None. And he was completely at peace. Not because the uncertainty wasn't real, but because he had separated his well-being from the outcome. He wrote, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." The person who can sit in uncertainty without panicking has something most people never develop. The ability to be okay right now regardless of what might happen next. That is not passive. That is the deepest form of trust in your own ability to handle whatever comes. If you can sit with not knowing, if you don't need everything resolved before you can breathe, you are stronger than most people on Earth. But here's where it gets interesting. Because sign 3 is the one that most people around you will misread entirely. Sign 3. You set boundaries without guilt. Most people cannot say no without apologizing for it. They say yes to things they don't want to do. They stay in situations that drain them. They give their time and energy to people who don't value it. And they feel guilty every time they try to protect themselves. Epictetus had a very specific word for this. Foolishness, he wrote. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. The person who cannot set a boundary is handing their peace to whoever asks for it. They are saying, "My time, my energy, and my well-being are available to anyone who wants them." That is not kindness. That is a lack of self-respect dressed up as kindness. Setting a boundary is not aggressive. It is not cruel. It is not selfish. It is the quiet statement that you know what you are worth and you are not willing to negotiate on it. The people who set boundaries without guilt are not the ones who care less. They are the ones who care enough about their own peace to protect it. Most people will call that selfish. Epictetus would call it wisdom. If you can say no without spiraling into guilt, you are stronger than you think. And that quiet confidence flows directly into sign 4, which is the one most people notice about you before you ever say a word. Sign 4. You don't explain yourself. The need to explain yourself is one of the most telling signs of inner weakness, not because explaining things is wrong, but because constantly explaining, constantly justifying your choices to people who didn't ask, comes from one place. You need them to approve. Epictetus was completely clear on this. He said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. Not, first ask everyone what they think you should be." First, say to yourself, the person who has done the inner work of knowing who they are and what they stand for doesn't need external validation. They have already validated themselves. They make decisions. They act. They don't hold a press conference to explain why. This is often misread as arrogance. It isn't. Arrogance needs to announce itself. Arrogance needs you to know how impressive it is. Quiet confidence needs nothing from you. The person who moves through life without constantly explaining themselves is not cold or disconnected. They are simply not looking to you for permission. They already have it from themselves. If you have stopped feeling the need to justify your choices to everyone around you, that is a sign of extraordinary inner strength that took years to build. And it all comes from sign 5. The one Epictetus said is the rarest of all. The one that separates the truly strong from everyone else. Sign 5 is the one most people never develop, not because it is the hardest to understand, but because it requires something that the world is specifically designed to take from you. If these ideas are hitting different, subscribe to 5 Ideas Daily. Sign 5. You keep going when there is no reward. This is the one. Most people can push through difficulty when there is something waiting on the other side. A promotion, recognition, praise, a result they can see coming. But take away the reward and most people stop. They stop showing up. They stop trying. They stop doing the right thing. Because if nobody is watching and nothing is coming, why bother? Epictetus bothered. He was a slave. There was no promotion coming, no recognition, no reward for being disciplined or wise or virtuous. He would likely die in the same condition he was born into. He kept going anyway. He wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." Not, make the best use of what is in your power when the reward is worth it. Always, regardless, without condition. The person who does the right thing when nobody is watching, who keeps the standard when there is no external pressure to maintain it, who shows up consistently not for the result but because it is who they have decided to be. That person cannot be broken by failure, because they were never doing it for the outcome in the first place. They were doing it because it was right. Epictetus called this the only true freedom. Doing what is right not because it pays, but because you are the kind of person who does what is right. If you are someone who keeps going without applause, without recognition, without anyone watching, you are not ordinary. You are exactly the kind of person Epictetus spent his entire life describing. So here's what I want you to sit with. Of these 5 signs, and which one surprised you most about yourself? Which one made you think, actually, maybe I am stronger than I thought? Drop it in the comments. And if these ideas are building something in you, subscribe. 5 Ideas Daily, every week. This video is for educational and motivational purposes only.